Hi, I just thought I'd make a short video in regards to the responses that I received for Steve McQueen's Lovers Rock story. And I'd like to give a shout out to Patrick Lewis for the comments that you made. And I did agree with you that there should have been more collaboration between Menelik Shabazz and McQueen. Well, for Steve McQueen to get in contact with or send out his researchers to, collaborate with people who know about the genre. And being so, Menelik Shabazz did make a film, the documentary of Lovers Rock, then he would have been one of the go-to people. However, we know that didn't happen. And the other person, that I'd like to say thank you to is Human Being. Human Being, I enjoyed the comment when you were talking about defining the decade of the 80s, the late 70s and 80s, as the decade of style and self-esteem. And you're quite right, because it was an age of discovery throughout the 70s. The reggae music that was coming out of Jamaica inspired the musicians here in England to make Lovers Rock. And, there's a lot of information about that. And obviously, like with Trojan and them and other record stables that had come out and did their thing, producing a whole heap of music like Green Sleeves and all the different reggae labels at the time. And yes, also the fact that there is so much that goes into putting on a blues or a house party, sound systems. They're specialists. Those guys that string up the sounds and everything, the DJs, the selectors, all of those people there. After on different social media, but I focused on Facebook for a while. There was a lot of discussion. It was ablaze, and with comments and about the disappointment of Lovers Rock. And you had like two distinct groups: people who never experienced going to a blues, okay, they more likely accepted the version that was portrayed to them. Whereas people who actually experienced going to a blues knew that it was an awful portrayal, okay? Um, and then further on, we found out that, Steve McQueen's never been to one of those parties, so it's just a figment of his imagination. Hence, my conclusion at the time, after seeing it, was that if it was called Silly Games, I would not have had a problem, seriously, because it was one big silly game as far as I was concerned. So I already exhausted that. The other thing now is that when I was speaking, and what I was talking about in the video as well, was not so much of, the artistic license that, anybody with the funds or the contacts can actually, who got the opportunity, their series would have been on the TV. But it's the fact that those opportunities don't come around very often. And there's just so many obstacles placed in the way for creatives to get their work seen. And the biggest obstacle is unseen bias. Okay. And that really isn't down to us. So it's down to the system to break up the unconscious bias. Yeah. So that we can actually get on with our lives and bring forward our talents. Okay. So I posted that video on the Wednesday. By the Thursday, I received an email, and it was from Parliament UK to do a call to evidence where it came to inequalities and disparities concerning, the racial and ethnic minorities. So basically, cutting through all that jargon, what it basically means is just putting down cause of evidence what affects non-British white people in the UK. So they asked like 10 questions about that. Okay. Now, I'm not going to go to every single point. However, what is alarming and screams out as a grandparent myself is the effects that it's having on children. Now, this isn't actually new. It's just accumulation of it. And I checked it out. You know, some of our families, including mine, has been here for like 8 decades, right? So the situation has got worse. You would have thought it got better, but it's the reverse. Can you imagine? Your child has gone to a child has had their hair cut and they've got a line in their head, okay? Now, those of you who choose to cut your children's hair and, is seen as like a number 1 haircut with a line in it or a number 2 or whatever with a line in it, parents are sending their children to school with those styles thinking that there's nothing wrong with them, right? Okay. So the child attends school now, but did you know teachers have to look for low disruptive behaviour and hairstyles are included in that? Okay. There was a study done. I can't cite the study right now, but I did get it on, from a teacher, that there's a study has been done whereby teachers have been asked to note low disruptive behaviour, and one of the categories is actually hairstyles. Okay, so if you have a straight hair child, that means white or Asian child, who has gone to the barbers, had a hairstyle, had a line or 2 put in the hairstyle, all right, as long as their hair can flick over the line, then that is perceived by teachers, and we're not just talking about white teachers, we're talking about teachers from all backgrounds in Britain, as being low disruptive misbehaviour. Whereas a black child whose hair has a line in it, whose hair obviously can't flick over the line, they are being penalised for that. So it only takes, and it's up to the school's discretion, how many low disruptive behaviour actually results into having a fixed exclusion or a permanent exclusion. And you see that a lot of these children, have special education needs or need an education health plan. And these education health plans take years. It's kind of picked up that children might need extra support, or the way that they learn isn't necessarily conducive to the way the school's teaching them. And it's funny saying that, because you would have thought that, there's teachers would be aware or be trained on the different learning styles in school, or it would be more learner-led than tutor-led or teacher-led. So you see how the child learns, and they've got things that they have to do. Then you need to be more flexible to get the child to learn what you want them to learn. Okay? So black children are being penalised through unconscious bias and being criminalised at the same time. Now, this is very concerning because the consequences of excluding children from school on such trivia and the effects that it will have on them later down the line can result in them being put on a plane and deported to Jamaica in the end. As we've seen today, another flight is taken off. And the flight that was taken off, a chartered plane going to Jamaica, full of terrible and dangerous criminals, so the headline would like us to believe, has so many parallels to the transatlantic slave trade, which we still haven't had reparations for. In fact, I'd actually signed a petition again for compensation or reparations for the transatlantic slave trade and its impact on African Caribbean people. That was a petition that UK Petition UK got in contact with me and asked me to fill out this call for evidence. And the line and the flick, you see, in the 10th century, Arabs used the same excuse for enslaving African people because they said it was justifiable to capture us as slaves, to enslave us, because our hair didn't grow over our ears. Now, what kind of cognitive dissonance is that? And in the 21st century, these things are still happening. So, it's just how one thing links up to another to another. The bottom line is inequalities, right? And the impacts of people's unconscious bias on others. All right? Now, somebody's unconscious bias is actually their problem and they need to sort it out. It's ruining so many people's lives. So many. In so many different ways. We've got mental health going off the roof, off the charts. Both in the UK amongst the black population and in Australia and no doubt in other countries where there is this oppression of criminalising skin colour. And ended on that note, for now, that Lovers Rock song called Black is the Colour of My Skin. And I'm proud to be living in it. Anyway, take care, and a big up to all of those who decide to get in contact with me. I appreciate it. Bless up yourself. One love.